Good morning, everyone. Today's reading is slightly unusual. It's going to be, I don't know what I'm going to write on the thumbnail, but it's going to be how you would get on if you met when you were very young. So I meant primary school age, so probably around about the age of 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think what I'm trying to do is to look at relationships, how they are in their bare bones before we decide how we should show up to look good or to play a part. So I'm hoping it's going to be more fun and dramatic. So I've got 3 piles, 1, 2, 3. If you want to take your choice, and we'll get going.
La música de Harry Fraud.
Okay, right then, let's go. I have a feeling that if you two met when you were in primary school or preschool, so you're really young, I think you two would have been the sweet couple that the teachers go over when in the staff room. You'd be the pair who sit next to each other and just play really sweetly together. And then you're kind to each other, and you're actually kind to other children as well, which is absolutely amazing. But I do think that you would have been quite amusing in the fact that your speech would be quite direct. You're the type of kids that would come to school dressed as mermaids or dressed as something very sweet. If it's masculine, it may have been a merman or a merman. But I think you would have shocked people, both of you, exactly. Your energy is quite similar, but you would have shocked people by the fact that your sweet demeanour would be also, you would speak very straight. You would say what you mean and mean what you say, and it would come across as quite direct. You're coming across here as being somebody who's quite dreamy and quite romantic. You're very patient. You would let people speak. You wouldn't be the one that blurted out at the front of class. You would put your hand up and you would wait. And you'd have a real need to connect with the other children on a one-to-one basis. You would be the child who could probably be very good at DT or very good at sewing or those things which require patience. And I think that you would have that sort of, I don't get the impression, because you've got Pluto smack bang in the middle here, I don't get the impression that you were the child that cried easily, but I do get the impression you're the child that was very soft. You may have spoke softly, or you may just have had that calm but in charge energy about you. Your person's very similar. Your person's coming across as very soft, probably spoke quite softly, probably didn't play the games in the playground where they had somebody in a headlock. I think your person may have been interested in health, but you've both got this energy of like Virgo and water. So it's a soft energy, but it's very helpful to other kids. I think your person would have been quite into, I'm going to say health, but I don't mean as a child. I think health as in fitness rather than health as in not eating chips. That sort of health. I think your person would have been good, the good kid in class, not the evil one that ransacks in the classroom. And I think you would have come across very similar as well. So I think that you two would have sat together at the front of class together, and people would either then put you next to the naughty child and split you up, because I think you had a good calm influence on other children. Right, let's have a look. I think you're both quite feminine in the way that you come across. I think you're very good at picking up, both of you are very good at picking up other people's moods to the fact it might have affected you. You may have tried to make other people feel good before yourself. You may have been the child who offered their sharpener, the child who picked up the other child when it fell down in the playground. Both of you are probably very similar like that. But I think your person is more of a show-off than you. I think they would have liked When they relax, I think initially when you're both in class, but I think when your person relaxed, I think they would have been the type of person who would be showing off as they grow older and they got to the stage where they were probably in secondary. No, let me retract that. As they got older and they were probably over 18 in UK, they would have been the child who, when they got drunk, would have been the biggest show off. They would have loved attention. And if this person was sat next to you and you were their best friend, they would have done anything to get your attention or your attraction in some ways. And I'm wondering whether it'd be sort of showing off in some way. You know, the latest, I don't know, Running Man, I don't know, whatever kids do nowadays. Well, it's not nowadays. I think you are more reserved. I think you would have been the child that worked hard in class. This person would have been the child who the teachers loved because there was a bit of a slight show off there. You would have been the child who was quite quiet and possibly worked quite hard, but there was no messing with you. I think if you were going to say something, you would just say it and mean it. And it would be quite direct and quite precise and what's the word when you delve and you can pick out people's weaknesses? It's not intuitive, it's something else, it's something more than that. Your person's very similar, but I think you'd be more astute. If you decided that you didn't like somebody in school, I think you could cut them to the quick pretty easily. Your person could too, but for different reasons. Your person would just go in for a full-on scrap where you would probably just do long-term pain. You would do something that you would have thought out quite deeply and then made some plans to make sure that you got what you wanted at the end of it. This person would just go in all guns blazing if something annoyed them. But I think, to be honest, both of you have got quite soft demeanours. You're more reserved, your person's more of a show-off, but I think you're very, in your communication, you're both very direct. You would take some probing or prodding to get there. This person would take very little. This person over here is more exuberant. What I'm picking up here from this person, and this is like really, I don't know, silly, but I think your person possibly could be a foodie who may enjoy food but then have to exercise afterwards, because there's that sort of, I'm going to say Virgo need to keep a routine and a rhythm, but with Taurus here as well, I wouldn't surprise you whether your person had a love of food or beauty or in some way just enjoying themselves. And I think, so you've both here got a Venus that's ruled by Venus, so I think you both would have had an eye for beauty. You both could have enjoyed art classes, you both could have just enjoyed making yourself look good. You may have been into makeup, he may have been into eating. You both would have been into fine clothes. By fine clothes I mean like pretty clothes, like lacy clothes. Now, as this person's grown up, in a male or female, you probably both have some sort of underwear fetish in the nicest way, as in, not fetish as in, I don't know, you wear your pants on your head, but more in the fact that you like to, you know, you probably could be quite obsessed with making sure that your underwear was nice. Your energies are very similar. When you go and get things, your energy is almost as if you step back and let other people get something before you. His energy or her energy, your partner's energy, whether male or female, is almost as if he or she has been hurt in some way that they've asserted themselves, as if they could have shown their colours at home with their parents and tried to assert themselves in some way and been slapped back. Not physically slapped back, but just sort of put back down again. So they've had trouble in asserting themselves. And I don't say you've had trouble, but you have that feeling of almost putting everybody else first before yourself, and then having trouble in saying what you want. All right. So in school, you two would have been the sweethearts. You would have been, if you were friends in school, you would have been the ones that held hands in the playground. You would have been the ones that sat together and... No, I'm not going to say that. You would have been the ones that ate sweets. That had little sticky sweets in your pockets and shared them out with everybody. Both of you would have been. And there would have been this feeling of just being connected and sitting next to each other without having to say a lot, because you're both very similar. I think your person was definitely the person who would try and come out with a quip to get people's attention, because I think they like attention, but there's a softness about them, there's a beauty about both of you that would have attracted people to you rather than having to show off. You would have been the one that connected with other children. You would have been the one that picked the child up. Or you noticed when somebody was upset and you would sit next to them. When somebody new comes to school, you would have been the one that was put there to possibly look after the other child and just introduce them for the first few days. And I think you would have worked hard. I think you could be quite focused, and you would have worked hard, and you wouldn't mind working on your own occasionally. Your person, less likely to work on their own, they're probably more of a group person and would like other people around them to do that little bit of showing off. Very assertive, but very soft. I think their assertiveness you wouldn't get to know until you knew them quite well. You're the type of kids that just laughed when you were opening your lunch boxes and sat next to each other, and you didn't really hassle the teachers too much. You just had other kids around you smiling and laughing. You had a good energy. You would have had, if you were together in primary school, a good energy about you. Right, let's have a little look deeper. God, upside down, twisted back to front. Okay, you both would have been extremely playful, and I think that you possibly could have done that. I'm not sure if I'm interested in whether I want to play with you, but the other person would have come over and got you. And I think that you would have been the children who played all break time rather than sat there sulking. You would have been the kids who instigated a game, probably your person, and you would have put on, oh, I'm not really sure what I want to play, but your other person would have taken the lead, I think. But I think you would have had a huge bunch of different games up your sleeve. And I think your person probably would have been the one that would grab you to start playing something. So what type of play would you like? Something... This is really silly, but I guess that you two would have been the type that played Happy Families. It would have been the type that had the dolls in the pram and stuck them in seats, and then your person would have been the person who made the meal and really enjoyed getting the food together with the plastic corn and the plastic plates and the plastic cups and a little tea party, because he's coming across, or she's coming across as quite feminine, and so are you, but yours is like connecting feminine and his is more sort of beauty-based feminine. So that's probably what you would have done. So I'm taking, if your person is manly or a man in any way, that I'm just taking all this all away from them, because they would have been playing dolls, but they would have been more orientated on getting the food together. And they would have made sure that your doll wasn't dressed in the lumpy fancy dress clothes at the bottom of the pile. They would have had the smartest fancy dress clothes that everybody else wanted, but your person would not be afraid of taking them off everybody else. Or the scrap that ensued after that. You probably would have been a little bit shocked, but still taken the clothes and stuffed them on your doll. Right, what type of play would you know? Okay. We've done that one. Okay, there would have been and I think this actually from your cards up here before I put these out, I don't know if you can see these, there would have been a huge, strong attraction between the pair of you, because your energies are so similar. Your energies are very feminine, but with a strength behind them. Your person's strength is more obvious, your strength is more subversive, is probably one of the words, but that's not a negative. Well, it is a negative term, but I mean it in that people wouldn't know your strength unless they dug quite deep. This person's strength would have been out, and they probably would have spoken out and been a little bit louder in class, where you would have maybe have been quieter, and people would have only known you by the way that you connected to them, not in the general class. You may not have been the person to put your hand up first. This person probably was. And they were probably, your person probably was teacher's pet. You were probably the child that people talked about and how sweet this, so-and-so was. But what would have been your bind is the fact that you are so similar and the bond would have been very strong. It's the type of bond that would have been, the type of kid that runs out of school and say, can so-and-so come and play tonight? Can they come and play? Can they come and play? Can they come and play? Until both parents looked cringy and said yes. There's that need of wanting to carry on your friendship outside of school. And you're probably very playful together. But I do think as well that you would have worked well together. And I think that your teachers would have felt that especially you, that you worked hard. So you could have been the type of kids that just shared projects together, and that's where the bond probably increased. I'm making this up totally because, I'm just doing it from your energies, how you would have come across as an adult, and then trying to interpret as, if you were in school together. So this might sound absolutely mad. But I'm getting from you somebody who works hard and quite likes working hard, because you've got Virgo and you've got Capricorn here. And then there's this Devil card here, which is like a bond between you two, which is very strong. And how kids bond is basically trying to get more of that other child into their lives. So after school, sitting next to them all the time. When the PE groups were out, you two would have made a beeline for each other, because you just would have got on instantly. Okay, where you both found fun in life would have been the way that you communicated. I think your person is quite a passionate communicator in the fact that they are quite forthright, and I think that you're probably passionate in the way that you are just passionate when you communicate. You would have been somebody, if asked, why do you want to play with me? You would have said, because I love you, because I love you, sort of thing. While your person would have basically said, because you're fun, that type of feeling. But I think you could be both quite independent if you needed to be. And I think that you both could have possibly, if you're quite similar, had a couple of blow-ups. But as with kids, you would have just gone straight back together again because you're quite similar. I don't think you would have minded some time to yourself if need be. Give that Capricorn there as well. Okay, how would you both contact with people, with parents or teachers? I think your person would have been a bit of a teacher's pet. And I think that possibly would be because of the fact that they communicated well and they were open. But I also think as well that the teacher would have sensed in them some sort of hurt that they were trying to work on, and possibly in a good way that they were trying to help other people, because they felt it, they would see it in other children, they would have helped them along. And your teacher would have recognised that in your person. You are coming across as somebody who would have been recognised for the fact that you connect very well and you're very patient and you work hard. You have a gentle quality about you that digs deep. You could have been quite quiet in class, but I don't think that you were somebody who anybody could pull the wool over their eyes. Right, your skills. You could have been very good at like business or research. Arts and crafts, there's quite a few things here. So Libra would have been making things beautiful like design or clothes, interior design. You've got Neptune here, which is arts, poetry, just being very good at pulling in influences which other people can't quite get a grasp on. You could have been a dancer with Libra and Neptune here, but you could have been somebody who worked really hard at it. And with the Two of Cups here and Patience, you could have been somebody who could work very well as part of a twosome in some way. What's the word for twosome? That's not right, is it? So your skills would have been something quite feminine, whether you're male or female. It would have been something quite feminine to do with like movement or dance or beauty, but you would have been quite structured with it. So you could have a very good business mind and work very well as in a twosome. I can't even think. I'm just thinking twins, and I can't even think. There now, your person, what their skills would have been something quite direct, because you've got the Sun and you've got Aries, so the way they communicate would have been quite forthright, they would have been quite expansive, but they also would have been very interested in making things look better. But as I said before, your person could be very much interested either in Taurus is it makes me think of estate agents, so it's that estate agent feel. They may like property, they may like building, they could be a builder, they could be, with Aries and the Sun here, they could be somebody who does not like to be indoors. But they could also be that type of person with Mars and Chiron who helps other children along. So, okay. So this is the type of kid that possibly could be in the Lego box, but helping other kids along, and has actually grown up to build things as they've got older, or be very interested in real estate, and have that sort of business quality that's very forthright, but can connect very well. And they're also very good at apprenticeship. So if somebody wanted to be apprentice with them now, that would suit them, because I think they could heal people with the path that they've been through and all the falls that they've had. They'll be able to help people along. Right, anyway, what was I doing? Excuse me. Just choking on nothing. So I think that your person skills are same but different from yours. Yours are probably more creative and more awareness of things that are outside of everyday life. So you have that sort of rhythm in you, have that sort of, in the way that you speak, in the way that you write. You could be a writer, in the way that you dance or move. You've got a beauty about you. And as a kid, you would have been the one probably in the dance class who just looked elegant, or the child who just dressed well, or just the child who wrote the best stories, the best poetry, with the most imagination. And you did it with a really good insight. And I think your person was probably somebody who was Lego box boy, Lego box girl, and trains, and like to build. Actually, no, trains now. I've got Virgo. Like to build. And may just do that now as they've grown up. Right then, so growing up from kids to being whatever age you are now, let's see what's changed. Okay, I think that whoever you're asking about, you may not be together now. It's very possible that you're not together now, or there's no contact, or these qualities we've talked about have somehow weeded themselves out of your personalities. I'm thinking, because you've got the Ten of Swords here, and you've got the Six of Swords here, and you've got the Queen of Pentacles in the middle, I'm wondering whether you are with somebody else and you're asking about an old boyfriend or girlfriend. If this pile is feminine, this person very much could be in building or real estate. Do you know what? Either of you could be, because you've got Capricorn here, and the last card are cards of lying low and endings, and then you've got the Queen of Pentacles in the middle. So I think that either you're not together. I think that you are not together now. I don't know. You're not with this person you're asking about, but some of you, could be both of you, have these qualities of, with you still being incredibly hardworking, you could be a mother or a father. Your person could be in some sort of career that is quite practical in the way that they've used their Taurus and their Aries to make something of themselves and build something. So they could be quite steady but focused and quite driven, and doing something that we talked about earlier, to do with building, to do with beauty, or just to do with something very solid and organised and steady. What else does Taurus do? Eat, cook, real estate. building look hunky? I don't know. Could be health. They could be in some sort of health career. Or healing with Chiron here. I don't know. Well, I'm going to leave you there. That was a really unusual read, isn't it? So I'm going to leave you there, pile number one. So just to sum you up, you are somebody that has, you're both very similar. Your qualities are very similar in the fact that you're both quite gentle-natured, and you would have been adored in school. You would have been hardworking but very perceptive. You would have had a really good instinct on what to do to make things become more beautiful. You would have been very perceptive in a bigger sense that you could pull influences into your work, whether especially creative work, in a very easy manner. I think that you would have been the child that people would have given to the new kid that came to school to make them feel at ease. Your partner's very similar, quite soft-natured, probably very into health, probably very the type of child that showered and brushed their teeth even. The type of child that was quite open and expansive with teachers, and the teachers liked them, but they were very sort of steady, and they would make sure, they were the child that liked building things, that was in the Duplo and the Lego, but also included other children because they know what it felt like to be left out. And I think your energies gelled really well together. And I think together in school, you would have been the pair that sat together rather sweetly and shared your lunch boxes. You would have been the type of child that, if you both were sat together, you would include other people into your group. Okay. I'd be really interested to know whether you have grown up in this way, or whether one of you is... To me, as soon as I pulled this card over, it could have been for either, and I was talking about Taurus, it could be somebody that worked, your partner could be somebody that worked in building in some way. With Virgo there, it could be architecture, it could be just they are a builder. Something solid, something practical and something earthy. They could even be a gardener. I don't know, a landscape gardener, something like that. And then you're coming across with this Libra and this Neptune. So I wonder whether you possibly, male or female, could be a mother or father. And you could be asking about somebody who you might have fallen in love with when you were young, or just somebody you're interested in now. But if it is somebody you're interested in now, I don't think with these two cards on the outside of the Queen of Pentacles that you're together. Right, pile number one. I hope that, I'm going to say I hope that made sense, because I don't think it was meant to make sense. It was just meant to be something that was a bit different from the other reads that you get, just to sort of put a little break into things and before we restart with the other reads. Right. Right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again. Bye. Sorry, I'm back again. The card, my SD card, keeps playing up and driving me mad. Right, you two in school. So this is just a little fun look into how you would have been as kids before your natures decided to be slightly swayed by outside circumstance. So let me just have a quick look before I start talking. Let's have a look at you first. Okay, I think you would have been slightly, well, you would have been a strong character. You would have been direct and slightly eccentric. And I don't mean eccentric as in the nutty one, but eccentric as in you had your own style, and the way that you said things could have been quite unusual. The way that you communicated could have been quite unusual. The way that you put your words together could have been quite unusual. My daughter sometimes says that when she's nervous, she sounds like Yoda and all the words come out backwards. So I wonder whether you had that quality of being two different types of energies. You were somebody, I think, who was quite quiet on the whole, but you had a big presence, and the kids, you were probably the child that sat very quietly in class, but you were quite magnetic in some way. You were probably quite adventurous, and you were probably very good at being direct in an unusual way. I remember somebody telling me that they were young and they decided that they fancied somebody, so they threw something, I think it was a peach, at this girl's head. That this energy here makes me think that's the type of thing you would do. That you were quiet, you were very hardworking, you could have been quite shy, but maybe not, I don't know, because there's a mixture here. But you were somebody who was quite internal in some ways. You probably felt deeply and thought a lot, but you're the type of kid that would come out and throw a piece of fruit at somebody's head if you fancied them, because you were quite unusual in the way that you contacted people or communicated in some way. I think you were hardworking, and I think that you took things in, and I wonder if in school, if you were ever bullied, that it would have been one of those things that had a huge impact on you. I think if you had any hardships in school, you would have been the person who felt it deeply but wasn't afraid to talk about it. You're the type of child who could have sensed when it was coming, but as soon as it started, you would have called them out straight away. I think that you're probably very much into play. You would probably like to have fun in school, and you're probably the kid that laughed a lot. You may have had something about the way that you laughed and the way that you communicated that was very amusing. You could have been the kid with the tall tales. You could have been the kid who was slightly naughty, because you've got Mercury in Sagittarius and you've got Venus in Mercury. So to me, that's the type of child who laughs a lot, speaks a lot, is funny. Probably, if there's a bit of Pisces in there as well, he's very good at impersonating. You're probably very astute in picking up, because you've got Scorpio here and you've got the shadow self here. You're probably very good at picking up people's nuances and taking the mickey out of the teachers. Each teacher would have had a nickname, and you would have been the person to have made it up. You would have the person who probably sat extremely still, though, when the storybook came out. You probably enjoyed words, you probably enjoyed reading, you probably just enjoyed being in school. You're probably the kid that really just enjoyed being there. You could actually been, you've got Capricorn, you've got Saturn and Scorpio here, so you could have been quite shy, but it would have been the shyness, the way that you came across in school was almost similar to the way that you were with your friends. So you could have been quite reserved, but I think with Scorpio here and with Mercury, you probably, and Capricorn, actually Capricorn I meant, you were probably had a very dry sense of humour. You probably had an eccentric sense of humour, and you were probably very dry with it. I think you probably were the type of child that made everybody laugh because of your dry sense of humour and your quirkiness. I think you may have been quite adventurous. You were probably the kid that had a globe, liked to spin your globe, and liked stories about foreign places. You were probably the type of child with Mercury and Sagittarius who probably, I'm not saying you have got Mercury and Sagittarius, it's just like an energy I'm just trying to read. You could have been the type of child that liked epics. Oh, I love epics. Lawrence of Arabia, Jesus of Nazareth, all those really expansive films with giant, what's the word, vistas, I can't think, and with big personalities, or, people that made an impact. And don't you just love those? But I wonder whether you were that type of person who was in like a dream world when those films were on. But you've also got that sort of cheeky quality, this Mercury quality. You could have also been a Willy Wonka watcher too, because you're slightly eccentric. You might have even liked the earlier version with, is it Gene Wilder? I don't know, but some ginger person who was really sweet. But I wonder whether, now this is the energy I'm picking up about you. It's, to adults, you would have seemed quiet. To adults, you would have seemed hardworking. To your friends that knew you, you would have been the funny one. You would have been the one that made people laugh, and you would have been the one that instigated things and everything was a joke. You would have communicated clearly, and you would have been a very good communicator with your friends, but you would definitely have had a quirky edge about you. You're probably very expansive in your loves and your likes. You probably enjoyed travelling. I don't know whether your parents travel a lot with you. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there because I'm just sort of clicking on that and talking about you and less so much about how you two got on together. Right, so your person is coming across as being quite harmonious, quite loving, quite an easy character to like. Just from looking at these cards here and your energy here, I think that your person would have been the sweet one that you would have spotted soon as they came into class and then decided you were going to sit next to them, and that's exactly what you were going to do. And you would have told them. But you're Sun in Mercury, you're the type of person, even though you're shy, that would have said, I want to sit next to you, and I'm going to sit next to you at break time, I'm going to play with you at break time, I'm going to have my dinner with you. And with you're ruled by Venus, he's ruled by Venus, or she's ruled by Venus, so there's probably that. They're probably a very attractive person. They probably drew many people towards them rather than them going out to have to go and get people to play with. There's probably something very soulful about your person, probably something very sweet about their eyes, probably something very receptive about them. But I think that you were probably the clear communicator here. I think your person could have been more reserved. They may have been very dry in what they say, and they could have had some sort of dry sense of humour. Your sense of humour was quite cheeky and quite open. Your sense of humour is probably more naughty and direct, and theirs was probably dry. So you would have started off the cracks, you would have got the game going, and this person would have finished it off with a dry line. I do think your person would have been attracted to your softer side, to your sort of the side that sat and perceived and understood things without having to say anything. So you were probably the type of kid that knew when another child was in trouble and would help them out in some way. You'd give them your wellies if they'd forgot their wellies for their little walk or something, or you'd lend them your gym kit if they'd forgot it, and your person would have liked that about you because you're very perceptive, and you would have strength in that as well. Whether this part is male or female, I don't know. So this is you, this is them. So whether they were male, they were the type of kid that would have enjoyed making home, making everything nice. So when they played with like puppets, or if they played with Action Man and Cindy, it would have always been really sweet, and it would have been very much a strong connection, rather than the type of child that ran through the playground trying to beat people with a stick. You would have come across as the person that probably enjoyed playing that type of game with them, but then would try and make it a little bit different and make it a bit funny. So you would probably put a different edge to it. But I don't get the feeling that you two were both group people. Maybe you more so. You would have been happy in groups, but I think you would have been the type of person that would always push a game to the edge to make it exciting. Right, let's have a little bit of a deeper look. You would have been the instigator in a connection and in playing. You would have been the type of child that, let's go play this, but let's not do the same boring thing, let's make it different. And your person would have, yes, that sounds great, would have just come along with you and just basically gone with your flow, because they think that you had a different tact of putting things together. You would have liked, your play would have been cheeky and naughty, and their play would have been sort of sweet. So I think you would have been the bad influence with them. You would have been the one that got them into trouble. You would have been the one that that said the rude word and got told off in class. Well, they would have been in shock. Your person has come across as sweet, but slightly conventional, because you've got all these like sweet sort of the Nine of Pentacles with the deer and the lotus and the harmony. It's almost as if they want to grow things around them that are soft and easy. They like life to flow, and they've got Venus here, you've got Psyche, but they've got Capricorn here, so there could be that all. And Pisces, this is a very sort of sweet slippery pile here that's very loving, but with Capricorn they could be quite shy as well with all that. You're coming across as being quite aware, hardworking, but more outgoing and more of a quirky edge to you. You would have definitely been the one to write rude notes and stick them in somebody else's bag so that they come out at the wrong time. You would have been the one that says something in class and puts and nips a rude word in the middle of it so that all your friends know but the teacher's not sure. Right, excuse me. The attraction between the pair of you would have been exactly what we said. I think that there's a difference between you two that's attractive. This person's softness is, you don't seem to have that sort of, I'm not saying you don't have it, I'm just saying that this person has a really strong, loving, gentle quality. Your quality is astute and it's there and it's open and it's different. So your differences would have attracted each other, because you would have wanted to understand a little bit why this person cried quite easily when they were told off, and you'd be like, why are you crying? Well, what's the matter with you? You've just been told off, that's it. But I think that you would have hit it off in the way that you communicate. You would have been the kids at the back of the class that talked and talked and talked until you removed from each other. You would have been the one that made your person laugh with something that you said or something that you did or some letter that you wrote or the way that you interpreted a text, or as you got older, it could have been anything. You could just put you could switch names, you could do it in such a style that was really amusing, and it just caught this person's attention and they were in admiration of your ability to be silly. When it was called for, which in school when silly is not called for when you're young, and they would have liked that. I've got questions here at the side and I can answer them without shuffling. So who would have been the more of a group person out of you two? It doesn't really matter. I can't really pick that one out, to be honest. Maybe this one, you would have been quite happy on your own actually, because you've got Scorpio, you've got Aquarius. I'm not saying you are any of these, but the energy is somebody who doesn't mind being independent, and Saturn's quite independent and doesn't need to be in a group, but you've got Mercury and Sagittarius, so you may have grown up into somebody who likes to work independently but needs to communicate on a larger scale. So you could be somebody who lectures, you could be somebody who works in social media, you could be just somebody who travels, enjoys travelling, even though your job's quite independent. This person needs to connect, and they need to connect in a sort of soft way. I don't think your person is somebody who works in a big, tough environment. It doesn't give me the impression of somebody who works with adults who, I don't think special needs, but I'm trying to say in a way that adults that need that extra care that can be quite difficult, where you have to basically be there 24/7. So your energy, this person doesn't have that energy. It's more the energy of somebody who's more possibly working with younger kids, or I'm not saying that everybody works with kids, I'm just thinking that it's something that's more gentle, it could be creative. It's like a hard-working lover, in the bigger sense, not as in that one-to-one lover. It's like a hard-working person that needs life to be sweet. Right, and I think you might be quite well known nowadays for being a hard worker. But yeah, I think people that are close to you know that you've got a side to you that is quite unusual in the fact your sense of humour is quite unusual, and you're probably the type of person who, when people get to know you, they're the type, that you just make people laugh. You're both a mixture of being quite hardworking. Actually, yeah, you're both not a mixture, but you both are quite hardworking. There's a soft edge to you. Okay, I think one of you is quite well known in your field in some way, that probably has a position of authority in some way, or has a lot of people underneath them. I wonder whether it's you. Whether you are quite well known and what's seen as successful. I think that it's probably you that's probably quite direct and quite... I wonder whether you are quite well known, or you have a position where people come to you and ask a lot of questions, and you are known by a lot of people. You're not just somebody who goes and sits in an office and deals with one person one-to-one. I wonder whether a lot of people know who you are, and that communication, I think, is a big thing with you. I'll get a bit more information. Okay, your styles, as you have both aged, I think that your confidence, especially when you've got this cat here that changes into some big cat at the back, and you've got the strength card at the end. So I think what you have done, especially with your Scorpio energy here and your sun, is that you have worked on yourself. And from as you were as a child, who was quite quiet, hardworking, but had a very sort of funky edge to them, as now... I think you've actually gained in a lot of confidence as you've grown older, and that may be one of your biggest can't think of not jumps in life, just something that's quite obvious about you that you would probably say, so you could say so yourself, where your other person I think it's still quite feminine in the way that they feel, and the way that they think, and the way that they move, and the way that they dress, and the way that they connect. I think there's somebody who's quite nurturing, quite soft, and quite loving, but also hardworking. I think they're very good at communicating on a one-to-one basis, but I do think that I wonder whether your person is struggling at the moment with not knowing in what direction, or being in a situation in life that they're not quite... I know this is moving away from kids, but they're not quite happy with themselves, and they may feel a little bit tied by something. It could be tied by a particular job, it could be tied by a particular person, I don't know. So, your question was, how would you get on if you were young? When you were in school, I think that you would have been attracted to this person's softness, because I think that's part of your inner being. Deep down, I think that you are somebody that quite recognises and quite enjoys people that are kind and soft and giving. So I think you would have been the person that walked into the class and saw this person sat there, and you would have been attracted. You would have wanted to sit next to them. When you sat next together, you would have given the impression to the teacher that you were really quiet and hardworking, but probably below the surface, or below the desk, whatever was going on, you were the one that was being a little bit cheeky. You were the one that had the sense of humour that got everybody else into trouble, but it's as if you were probably got away with it because you had sort of a very strong but stable and hard-working demeanour. So I think you were the kid that got away with everything. Your person would have been just sat there flummoxed by what was going on. If there was trouble going on, they wouldn't really know how to deal with it. They would have been the kid that got into trouble and started to cry, because they wouldn't have known what was happening. And I think you had a real sort of slightly rebellious edge about you in school, slightly rebellious, and your person would have been the person like, where on earth did that come from? And as you've grown up, I think that your confidence, which I think was strong to begin with, has actually grown, and maybe part of your job or the way that you show up in life now, because you've got the hidden strength here, you've got a Scorpio moon, not saying you have got a Scorpio moon, and I wonder in some way whether you communicate, whether you work with whether you do actually work with kids yourself, because you've got Mercury in Sagittarius, which is normally could be like teaching or lecturing, or just basically expanding people's minds in the way that you like your mind to be expanded, which I think is quite unusual in a nice way, in a really funny way. But I wonder whether your person is struggling at the moment with themselves, in the fact that they're not really sure. I think they still have quite effeminate qualities. This doesn't to me make me think of some really macho person. It makes me think of somebody who, even if they look macho, deep inside I think they're quite soft. But I wonder whether they are struggling with almost winding themselves up into a knot with their own personality, and then getting themselves entrenched in some situation. Right, I'm going to finish there because that's getting away from kids. But that's the energy that I think that you both have now, and how you would have got together in school. Okay, well, thank you, pile number 2. I hope that. I don't expect it to make sense because it's an unusual spread, but I just wanted it to be a little bit different. And I hope that I've brought up a few points that maybe you can identify with. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you again. Bye. Okay, right then. Hi there, pile number 3. This is just a quick little read to shake things up a bit, because just to make the read a little bit different. So how did you, if you two were in school together, or if, I don't know whether you were or not, this is how you may have come across, and this is how you may have got on. And I'm doing this read to basically just see how we change as adults, and when you express yourself freely as a kid, which always fascinates me, compared to how you express yourself as you get older, when you've got all those sort of things you feel you ought to be doing or ought to be showing. You're coming across as somebody who is, I'm going to say, shy. You've got Uranus here, and you have got shadow self, and the shadow self is sat there watching quietly, and you've got Uranus here, which is shy, and you've got Saturn, Mars here. I'm not saying these are your placements, but this is the energy that I'm sort of reading from the cards, and that makes me think of somebody who is quite shy deep down. You've got a Virgo moon feel here as well, so I think that you are somebody that's different, or you feel that you are different, and that you feel that you may not fit in. So you could have been quite quiet when you were in school. You've got Cancer here as well, so I wonder whether you're very caring, because you've got the empathy card here, the moon in Pisces. So I think that you probably were different. I think you possibly could have been one of those children that were afraid that they may not have been warm enough. When other kids come up and hug, and I wonder whether you're the type of person or the type of child that just watched and then felt like you were slightly on the peripheral edge of the group. But I think deep down, I think that you were really soft. I think that you were very good at being there for somebody when they were in need. So the kid that was crying, you were there to help them. The kid that forgot their PE kit, that you would have gone and lent your shorts to them. You're the type of child who would have been, it's like a soft, gentle feel about it, but you're quiet, and I think you would have wondered whether people liked you, even though your qualities were really sweet. You would have been the child that listens to other children, and you would have been the child that always, possibly with Virgo here, that always gave the gift at the right time. And it was really thoughtful. But I think with Uranus here and the shadow self and Saturn, you probably felt that you were colder, or appeared colder than you actually were, when you probably were quite different. You were probably quite direct in the things that you, or fixed and direct in the things that you felt and thought, and the way that you communicated. Actually, maybe not so much communicated with Cancer here. But I think what you like fun. I think you're the type of child that likes life to be big. You're the type of child that liked to play in groups. Even if you did feel like, you're the type of kid that probably came to own in PE or sport, or when you were outside, because Uranus is quite a large energy to contain, and you've got like a Venus energy in Leo. So I wonder whether you're the type of child that came out of themselves when they were moving and doing sport or acting, or you're just something that didn't keep you contained. And I think that's when people would see that your real qualities of being open and loving, because I think that you often wondered whether you were accepted. I'm only saying this from Uranus and Saturn here, and it's just cards and I'm just reading energy, so I don't know if that's true or not. But you were definitely the kid that had two sides to them that was quite showy-offy and had a strong personality. And I think that's where the kids were drawn to you, and I think the kids close to you knew how kind you were, because with a Virgo and Cancer here, you probably were the child that gave a lot. Your person is coming across as, I wonder whether your person was well off when they were young, whether the type of kid that had the PlayStation, the type of kid that mum or dad had the posh car and the big house. And I think they were the type of kid that almost made it feel as if life was easy, because they had that jokey quality about them, and they might have had this sort of setback of money, not setback, but backdrop of money. And I wonder whether that was a big part of them. They could have been the child in school that had the clothes. You know, there was like some sort of clothes at the time that were renowned for only rich parents buying. I wonder whether your kid turned up with whether your friend or your partner, whoever you're looking at, was that child with the clothes. But I think that you were attracted to them because they were different. They could have had the energy of being, I'm not saying this, sorry, camera clicks off. You were almost the child that came in halfway through the school and never really felt like you fit in, where this child came across and just felt that they were loved as soon as they came into school, because they were very much nurtured by their parents. But I think that you connected in the fact that you were both different. I think your person was the type of person that would say something really unusual to you, and this might carry through now. Let's go and do headstands in the sandbox. And you would have been, sounds great. Let's go and do it. But I think you possibly could have had remorse afterwards. When you were told off, I wonder whether your person really cared, and that energy may be what they have now, where you would have been a bit remorseful. Because with your Virgo and Saturn here, you've got Uranus, so that's huge, so you do like to be different, but you've also got that almost other part of you which like to conform as well. So you would have always been struggling with that, where your person has the energy of being somebody who was much loved by their parents, could push the boundaries if they needed to, worked hard, so got away with a lot, and then did something really naughty and got you all into trouble, and you loved it. You loved the fact that they were different and their energy was different. Your friend or your girlfriend or boyfriend that you're asking about would have been the child that put their trousers on back to front after PE and sat down in class and wondered whether everybody else noticed, but everybody would have found it funny. You would have loved that. It's that sort of energy of doing things slightly different just for the sake of making it different. And I think that your person's quite aware and quite astute at what they're doing. You would have done this quietly, because I think you would have been more afraid of getting told off, even though your energy is more rebellious than them. Their energy is sort of the energy of somebody who's much loved with a rebellious streak, so that they did it but then got away with it, because I think that the teachers probably would have replicated their parents in the way that they would have given the impression that they were open. So they would have got away with it, while you would have given the impression that you were shy. So your behaviour was probably questioned more, even though you were actually more rebellious than them. Your person has the energy of being very good at sweet talking. You've got the energy of being playful. It just gives me this to me makes me think of two kids that are naughty together. Your person instigates it. You feel remorse, but you enjoy it more than anybody once it's started off. And you also have this energy of being, when you're accepted one-to-one in or a small group and you feel that you're comfortable, then you really go for it and you really are the centre of that group and you make it fun and you make up the games and you like to be the boss of the games, because Uranus is fixed and Leo's very proud and giving but likes to be the centre. So I wonder whether you're somebody, you're like a snowball, you two, as if once it gets going, it gets building and it gets bigger, and then it would have fallen to pieces, because it would have been something outside the box in the school sort of scenario that you can't do things, and your person would have been smiling and then you would have been the one getting told off, because you had that more inward energy that the teachers may have thought you were up to more than you possibly were. Poor you. Your person comes across as being naughty in a different way, naughty in a way that they knew how to play the system. They were hardworking, but they were also quite open with it, and they were fun-loving, but they came across with sort of a softer demeanour, but they were very aware of what they were doing, and they were very aware of their own nature of pushing boundaries, and that is probably what you would have attracted to you in school, the fact that this person pushed the boundaries. Your communication would have been fantastic. I think you both would have shared interest in books, in reading, in stories and films, and just anything to do with words. You could have been the kids who were in the library together. And you probably would have sat next to each other and read without talking, or you would have shared books, or book reviews. Who used to hate book reviews? But it would have been something that you would have talked about. You could have even enjoyed, as you got older, if this wasn't just a primary school setting, the meaning of words, because you've got Virgo and this person's got Gemini, so words and meanings, communication would have been a huge part of your attraction in school together. But I do get the impression your person possibly could have been the rich kid. The rich kid who got away with murder, and you would have loved every second of it. You would have loved every second of it, because it would have been a chance for you to have joined in and showed off and just done something that was rebellious and then regretted it later. Where your person, I don't think even today, may have that much regret. They may be very much have a very good self-love, which I would guess would stem from their parents. I wonder whether you two would have talked a lot. You would have been in the back of the class with Virgo and Gemini here. You would have been in the back of the class and removed very quickly from each other, because I think you would have been the ones that sent the teachers bonkers by talking all the way through the class. But you would have been good when it got to writing, because you would have been very good at writing a lot. I'm not sure it would have made sense, but you would have wrote a lot. Your writing would have been more dramatic. It would have been very much part of your imagination, and it would have made life bigger. This person's writing possibly could have been more setting based, or more, they would have been more descriptive possibly, and in making things more beautiful. Right, let's have a few more questions. How would you instigate play together? This person would have instigated it, and it would have been something unusual. It would have been, I don't know, let's go climb a tree and see if we can hold a hula hoop in our mouth, sort of thing. Somebody you hadn't done before. Where you would have been, you don't think you would have instigated it. I think you would have let the other person do the instigating, but you would have enjoyed the fact it was different and ridiculous. And I've talked about communication. The attraction between the pair of you would have been the difference. The attraction would have been the fact that your person was different from you, but similar. The energy is similar, but I would think your backgrounds could have been quite different. And it made me think, the first thing was somebody that comes into a situation in the middle. This person comes in and it appears different, maybe a different nationality, just a different way that they dress, just something different, but they're at ease with it. You've got that sort of, you come in and you're different, and it's like a quirky difference that people think you might have an edge to you, and because you may be quieter. You've got the stronger sense of fun though. This person's different, but I think you have got the stronger character in the fact that you are quite at ease with being different as you've got older, and the fact that you are more dramatic in the way that you like to live your life. You probably live a bigger life that's probably more on show. You may even like acting. You may like that sort of you may be the quiet show off. It's difficult to say because I've just you've given me the image of being somebody who's a little bit more introverted but not really, and your person is being more loved and accepted in some strange way, but I think that you are actually more of a group person. I think that you may be stronger in groups, even though that you may or question yourself more than this person. Do you know what? It gives me your energy gives me the feeling of somebody that blushes easily, because you've got a couple of planets here that are quite reserved, but you're actually quite outgoing. So there's always that discrepancy between how you're showing up to how you're feeling inside, and it almost clicks in with that uncomfortable feeling where you sort of blush easily. So I don't know whether that's you, but I wonder whether it could be, and that's not a bad thing, because it just shows that the way that you're acting in that particular moment isn't totally at ease with how you're feeling inside. So that's all it is. I don't think your person's ever blushed. I don't think they have. Okay, let's have a few more cards. I think you have got the ability in yourself. This is not so much you maybe as you were a kid of working really hard and putting a different edge on things, but being very sort of expansive in the way that you do things. You don't mind being the centre as you've got older, and you've got that confidence as you've grown. With Saturn here and Leo, I wonder, Saturn matures as they get older, so I wonder whether you have come up, almost on top as you've got older, and your energy may have been different in school. I think this person's energy to me seems quite constant. Right, I wonder whether both of you have kept your ability to communicate tip top, if you know what I mean. I don't know what I mean. Whether you've kept it moving and you've almost worked on it so that may be part of your life now. Whether you either both communicate very well or whether it's something that you do in everyday life. Communication could be a good part of the way that you earn your money, through speaking or through writing, or just somehow just being part of a group where you pull things together with words. I don't know what I mean by that. I have the impression you both of you are quite successful in work. One of you may be married or in a family situation. You may be married together. There's that feeling of completion, and I get that from you. Because I know this is a school one, but you have the impression of somebody who has matured really well. Your person to me has always got the feeling that they were accepted, and so I don't think they needed to do it. So I think that you really, I don't know what your job is now or what you do in life, but I have a feeling that it's something different and something that makes you feel good, or it should be, because you have the impression of somebody that has had to work on themselves and done a really good job. Right, so let's go back to your initial question. How would you get on? This isn't your question, this is my question. How would you have got on if you met when you were in school? I think that you would have been the one who was always kind, always caring, and always spotted when somebody needed help, went to sat next to the person who needed help and listened to other kids. You were probably the kid who put your hand up in class and didn't shout out. I think you have a big energy that you may have felt was difficult to contain in school. You've got quite a maverick energy about you, which I think you probably suppressed because I don't know whether you thought it was accepted. But your sweetness and your kindness would have probably got you through many situations, even if you were slightly reserved. I do think that deep down you're somebody who liked to show off. So if this person turned up in your life, you would have loved the fact that they were slightly eccentric and slightly naughty. You probably couldn't have related to the fact that they seemed quite spoilt, or they seemed as if they were loved very much by their mum or dad, or were very much accepted in their circle of friends or parents, or just grown-ups or young kids. They were just accepted and they were quite happy with that. I think that your communication would have been the bit that set you both off together. I think that you would have laughed a lot, and I think that you would have been very interested in details, whether they're to do with words or just making fun of people like silly names, or just flipping words around to make them rude. Your person's probably very much into beauty in some way. They could be very much into food. They could be very much into just making things look good, taste good, feel good. I don't know whether they could design something very easily in some way. That's something you both could have had in common. I wonder whether both of you would have been sat there with your pens and your pencils doing some sort of play that involved designing, because you've got Leo here, which is very much clothes designing and fashion. They've got Taurus here, which have loved that. You could have been sewing frilly bras on Cindy, the pair of you. You would have carried on sewing frilly bras on Cindy because you are, and then developed it into something that could possibly earn you a bulk of money. Your person may have been quite, the energy might have been sort of stop-started with that. You were the person that would have taken it somewhere. Your person would have been the person, if you worked as part of a team, that added to your different ideas and put a different edge to them. But you've got the energy of somebody that actually set up the stall outside everybody's home and sold. I'm saying bras because there's Taurus here, and they just love nice underwear, clothes that look good in a more old-fashioned, I'm going to say, but in a more traditional feminine style. So with your Leo energy and your Uranus energy, you're the type of person that put up the street shop and sold these unusual, you could even have done it and changed it, because you would have both put an edge on it. You would have made, I'm going to sound really silly now, you could have just sold underwear to chihuahuas. Something that was different. Something that had some edge to it that was just different, but you would have been the one that put it into practice. Well, I'm going to finish there. I really am going to finish there. I think I've said enough. Okay, so your energy together would have been that. I don't think I need to explain anymore. Please ignore and please don't repeat any of the stupid things I've just said to anyone. I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.